So Honda Cars Philippines continues to expand its hybrid lineup, and what we have here today is their most affordable offering to date. That would be this Honda HR-V RSE HEV, and what we're here to find out is if Honda's most affordable hybrid offering is any good. More on that later. For now, if you like what you're seeing, or even these kinds of reviews, why not hit subscribe and hit the bell? What a car! What a car this thing! So the brand new HR-V RSE HEV also represents the brand's mid-cycle facelift for this popular subcompact SUV. And in that case, with this mid-cycle facelift, you are gonna notice this new wider mesh grille, though in terms of the height, it is actually a bit shorter compared to the previous version. You also have a slightly reshaped front bumper, and being the range-topping RS variant, meron ka ditong red stripe or rather this heartbeat na parang motif kung sabihin natin, and that is also complemented by these slim LED fog lights. Admittedly, the changes are actually pretty minor. They're actually so minor in fact na I actually spent a bit of a, let's just say, spot the difference with the way this new HR-V looks. So towards the side profile, there's actually nothing new here, though to its defense, the side profile of the Honda HR-V remains looking distinct and very stylish even in 2025. You also have nice two-tone 18-inch wheels here, which thankfully this time around is also fitted na ngayon to even the mid-spec 1.5V. And then as with every HR-V, you have the door handles here sa kanyang C-pillar. And as we move towards into the car's rear end, this part I think is one of my most favorite design cues because of these clear lens full-width LED taillights. For me, maangas siya tingnan compared to the traditional red taillights. And this is basically your distinction that you are looking at the range-topping RSE HEV variant. Also worth mentioning nga pala na this time around for the mid-cycle facelift, finally, you now have here a powered tailgate. And yeah, this is the car's trunk space. Surprisingly, it's actually on the smaller side of the subcompact SUV spectrum. But yeah, let's close the powered tailgate first. Yeah, pretty slow nga lang yung powered tailgate niya. But anyway, in my personal opinion, I do like the HR-V's looks pa rin even in 2025 despite newer and even sometimes fresher competition like the Hyundai Kona Hybrid. Full review of that car coming soon. But sa ngayon, let's focus on the HR-V RSE HEV and mas naman tayo sa interior ng kotseng ito to see what else this car has to offer. Now, as for the interior of the HR-V RSE HEV, well, in terms of the overall aesthetic, yeah, pretty much same pa rin from the pre-facelift version. Material quality-wise, let's just say it's reasonably plush. So you have soft touch materials here on the lower or rather in the middle part of the car's dashboard, along with more soft touch materials here sa kanyang mga door panels. Yun nga lang, go to the upper part of the dash, you're gonna see hard plastics, but you won't frequently be touching that part anyway. And yeah, overall naman, in terms of the build quality, in typical Honda fashion, it feels very solid, very well screwed together. And thankfully, you still have a lot of physical controls with a very reassuring clicky feel. Admittedly though, meron ng ilang mga Chinese sa mga kalaban which are starting to feel a bit more premium than this car, like the BYD Sea Lion 6. Though granted, that car is a compact SUV, pero priced alongside lang a subcompact hybrid SUV. But yeah, there's that part to take into account as well. Now, as for the tech features, yeah, again, if we're used to na ngayon with the Chinese cars like the BYDs having these large screens, the Honda HR-V naman is a bit more familiar and I guess more traditional kung sabihin natin. So, you have here 8-inch infotainment display which versus the 15.6-inch screen in the BYD Sea Lion 6. Again, not direct competitors, but price-wise kasi you have to remember, you're kind of getting a bit more car with the Sea Lion 6. So, you have this 8-inch screen now which has a new interface compared to the previous one which adds a bit of, I guess, more modern feel to the touchscreen. You also have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and the overall screen itself is very responsive. Together with the large icons and the well-laid-out infotainment system, it is very easy to use, especially since you have your physical controls on the right side of the screen. Yun nga lang, that is actually your sign na this touchscreen here is actually meant for right-hand drive markets and not left-hand drive markets like the Philippines because of this orientation. Basically, at least in the Apple CarPlay naman, the ribbon is on the left side, yung kanyang home button here. And then, like in the Honda BR-V review that I said, there is a conflicting thing with the brightness setting of the main infotainment screen and the car's gauge cluster because this 8-inch screen is actually linked to the car's automatic headlights rather than have its own light sensor. And so, therefore, for example, you're going inside the tunnel and syempre, your automatic headlights will turn on, the touchscreen becomes dark, while the main digital gauge cluster, which has its own light sensor, still ends up being bright. So yeah, you have that kind of mismatch in terms of the brightness. But yeah, now going to the car's digital gauges, what you have here is a partly digital gauge layout. So the right side is analog and the left side is your 7-inch multi-information display. You have a lot of customization sa kanyang layout. Yeah, it's pretty good. You can see your hybrid system layout, but if you've been used to with cars like the BYD Sea Lion 6, for example, which are cheaper cars pa nga than the Honda HR-V, this will start to feel a bit rudimentary compared to those cars. But again, in terms of the execution, there is no doubt that this is a much more user-friendly interior with a very solid build quality, especially with these lovely, clicky physical controls. Other stuff worth mentioning here in the range-topping RS variant are these lovely leather seats with this embossed RS logo. You also have more red contrasting details across the interior, thus adding a bit of sporty flair, though yun nga lang, I am really not a fan of these gloss black stuff on the high-touch surfaces. Biggest crime is itong nasa center console because it's really scratched up so bad. Lalo na sa kanyang door panels, this is really terribly scratched na at this point. So, if you're gonna be owning this car for a long term, better add PPF to all of these gloss black stuff. Now, with all of these tech features and interior quality dealt with, let us now talk about the car's rear seats. Which, as you're gonna be seeing here, in terms of the rear seat space, in typical Honda fashion, napakaluwag ng kanyang rear seat space. This, by the way, is set for my driving position. And yeah, this is really good space. Kaya mong makadekwato sa aking 5'11" driving position. What this basically means is that another 5'11" passenger can fit behind a 5'11" driver. Yun nga lang, this is at a very wide interior. So, along with this middle seat raised up a bit versus the outboard seats, yeah, yun nga lang, it's not the best place for a middle passenger. This space is basically best for 2 rather than having 3 adults at the back. Now, as for the car's rear seat amenities, you have here your own aircon vents along with 2 USB-C fast charging ports. Of course, you have a center armrest with 2 cup holders. And yeah, it's a pretty good interior space here, though not the widest, but for 2 adults, it's actually very spacious. And yeah, with that in mind, I shall now hop back into the car's front seats to see how the Honda HR-V RSE HEV performs on the road. Now, as for the car's hybrid system, what you get here is a 1.5-liter 4-cylinder gas engine along with an electric motor that is arranged in a series parallel layout. This drives the front wheels via an ECVT, though unlike in Toyota's application, hindi ito naka-planetary gear set. Instead, as with every other Honda hybrid, what it uses instead is a single lock-up clutch which simply connects and disconnects the engine to the car's front wheels. Other variants is the CT's 1.5-liter gas engine, plus this time around, discontinued na yung 1.5-liter turbo engine. In reality though, the best drivetrain for this car sa totoo lang is this hybrid system. Because as you'll check out Migo's review, link in the description below, the 1.5-liter from the city is a bit anemic relative to the HR-V's size and girth. Now, as for the driving experience of the Honda HR-V RSE HEV, well, let us talk about first how the Honda hybrid system differs compared to the Toyota and even the BYD hybrid systems. So the Toyota and BYD systems are pretty similar because those two systems use an ECVT, whereas here in the Honda HR-V, what Honda uses instead is a clutch-based system. So wala siyang planetary gear or even a belt and pulley CVT in the most traditional sense. And instead, the engine simply connects and disconnects with the car's drivetrain. And what that basically enables is a higher degree of pure electric driving. Because in the Toyota system kasi, with their planetary gear ECVT system, the engine has no choice but to connect to the car's wheels even if it just wants to charge the car's battery. And that is why whenever you have a Toyota hybrid system or even the Lexus hybrid system, you tend to feel a lot of vibrations to the car's throttle pedal even if ang gusto lang namang gawin ng engine is for it to charge the car's battery. Now, because of Honda's clutch-based system, if the engine simply wants to charge the battery, it can basically do so without connecting to the car's wheels. Kaya that is why you will feel na when this car is cruising in pure electric mode, or basically even when the engine is charging the battery, the Honda hybrid system feels much smoother on most driving situations. So as a result, the Honda hybrid system feels very smooth, very responsive as well. And when the engine does want to connect, yun nga, as you're gonna hear naman, the car's 1.5-liter 4-cylinder gas engine seamlessly connected to the car's drive shaft via the clutch-based system. And together with that function is the car's linear shift control, which is what basically prevents the system from feeling a bit buzzy and thus giving you also a sportier driving experience. So yun nga, with the linear shift control, when I put my foot on the throttle ngayon, it creates those parang fake gear shifts kung sabihin natin. So hindi, papansin nyo nag-upshift siya, which is not what you would experience in any of Toyota's hybrid systems and even the BYD systems. To be fair, in the BYD naman, being plug-in hybrids, they have an even more electric dominant driving feel than any of what the Japanese hybrid systems can do. Once again, yun nga, since the Honda hybrid systems feel a bit more electric dominant compared to the Toyota systems, there's a higher degree of mechanical refinement. So I'm gonna be separating the word mechanical and structural refinement from this point forward. And then as for ride comfort, Honda really does a good job with suspension tuning because they are somewhat able to balance both a degree of sportiness along with a supple ride quality. Which is why if you will notice naman in our reviews, Honda vehicles tend to be somewhere in the middle, somewhere in between the Toyota's very soft driving feel, along with Mazda's truly sporty but firm driving feel. I am almost pretty much certain na ang tanong nyo ngayon dito is, how does this compare to the Honda Civic and the CR-V, considering how much I adored those two hybrid vehicles? Well, sportiness here in the HR-V RSE HEV somewhat takes a backseat compared to the Civic and CR-V hybrid, but there is still a reasonable amount of sportiness with the car's chassis. But compared to the CR-V and the Civic's chassis tuning, this car's platform feels a bit less rigid kung sabihin natin. I am feeling a bit more vibrations, though hindi siya kasing soft or kasing less rigid ng mga Chinese offerings, for example. This is still a Honda after all. Chassis rigidity is actually one thing that they're really good at. But compared to the Civic, compared to the Honda CR-V hybrid versions, the chassis here in the HR-V feels less rigid and thus less precise yung kanyang handling characteristics. But as far as other vehicles in this segment go, the HR-V RS is still one of the more sporty offerings. Though, compared to the Subaru Crosstrek and the Mazda CX-30, those two cars have a more rigid chassis, a much more planted chassis, especially when you take their cars through the twisties. Though I like the steering precision and the steering responsiveness, that is thanks to the variable gear ratio steering of this RSE HEV. Though in terms of feel nga lang, not the best but not completely numb either, so that's pretty good. So yeah, again, not the sportiest but one of the sportier options pa rin in the subcompact SUV segment versus the Corolla Cross though, talagang, yeah, this is a much sportier car. Now finally, how does this car perform when you put it out on a high-speed, long straight highway? Yun nga, it does those simulated fake gear shifts, which once again, yun nga, it actually helps in making the car feel far sportier along with being more refined because basically, wala ka masyadong engine drone as a result of those pre-programmed shift points. Once again, in typical Honda fashion, they've done a really good job with high-speed stability. Granted, the BYD Sea Lion 6 na again, sabihin ko nga, hindi sila direct competitors, especially with the BYD being a bigger car. Pero that car feels more stable and even more refined, especially with the advantage of being a much larger car. Now, sabi ko nga, I'm gonna be separating mechanical and structural refinement because while suspension is pretty good with how it deals with bumps, along with the car stability on high-speed roads, yeah, typical Honda weakness, road noise. I'm hearing a bit more road noise here. And just to prove a point, because sabi ko nga, we always say road and wind noise, but how exactly does it measure up compared to all of the cars that we review here in Go Flat Out PH? So the last car we had the sound test would be the Jetour X70, but here in the HRV RS, same conditions, 100 kph, 70 decibels. That's actually quite a difference. Now, on the subject of fuel economy, because of course this is a hybrid and so therefore that is pretty much a selling point of these cars. And yeah, it's actually pretty good. Kanina it actually was at 19.5 kilometers per liter, but because we shot this car with hour spills for about 2 hours na naka-idle yung coaching ito, bumaba na siya to 18 kilometers per liter. Though it's rising back again, incrementally to 19 kilometers per liter. So that is really good fuel economy. Honda is one of the best in terms of outright fuel economy. So, best of both worlds, a sporty driving experience along with one of the best fuel economy figures in the segment. You really get all the good things in a Honda hybrid system, and that is why we really vouch for these cars. Now, lastly, as for the car's safety features, of course, in typical Honda fashion, what you have is the entire Honda sensing suite of advanced driver assistance systems. So of course, you have your lane departure warning, lane keeping assist, full speed adaptive cruise control, along with the car's blind spot or rather the lane watch camera, though to be fair, I would rather have pa rin a traditional radar-based blind spot warning system. Now among Honda's hybrids, the HRV RS HEV we think is one of their more well-priced options. Priced at a little under 1.8 million pesos, the HRV is a bit more affordable compared to the equivalent Corolla Cross GR-S. Then again, the Corolla Cross GR-S has slightly more features to somewhat justify its price tag. Overall, however, the HRV RSE HEV could still be a little bit cheaper, but as a whole, the value proposition of this car is indeed very strong.